My nipples are hard. It's like,
Here
it's
we
all coming
go.
back. No.
I know. All coming
Okay.
back.
No, really, all where it started. Okay. They say that one Barbie will make your day. Well, guess what? Two blondes don't make a right, baby. Okay, we
That's girl
are
math, and that's on girl math.
no back to the beginning. Hilary Duff, the exorcist of her seance, has taken over my body because we are taking it back today to where this show, where it all started. In case you've been living in Diddy's like Dungeon of Doom, okay, before there was ever a Cancel Me Baby, there was a Two Blondes Don't Make a Right. So for the OGs, I am joined today by none other than the Emily Blair Marcus. So just to get you all up to speed, 4 years ago, Emily and I started our show, Two Blondes Don't Make a Right. Emily was another fellow, well, we were, besties in
Survivor,
real
a
life.
victim. Hashtag me too.
Hashtag like Emily's life matters because we were red carpet reporters together, besties living in Los Angeles, but we had a show exposing and riffing on all of the red carpet dysfunction, our stories, just airing it all out. Okay. It's like quiet on set who, but in all seriousness, we also, well, we started right before the pandemic came and just like wiped out our lives. But we had all, and how much fun we had. We had also seen things like Kobe Bryant's death. We were at the Grammys that day, the rise of BLM, like on my front porch, Gavin Newsom, like being mean dad and just curfewing our entire
Nothing's
lives.
changed there, so that's the good news.
You're like, yeah, so wait, what do you mean? Because that's
Same old
actually,
Gab.
no, that's like the clip notes of, you're like, of my day in Los Angeles. But Emily now has gone on, okay, to dominate the PR world. And who would have thunk it? Because on our show, we made fun of all of the shenanigans with uptight publicists and our interviews and what we were trying to get done. And now Em is on the other side, but not only on the other side, crushing it. Okay. She's launched her firm, Emily Blair Media. That's award winning. It's been featured in Insider, Forbes. It's noted for having 14 employees, all women under 30. Your clients have been in Women's Wear Daily, Bustle, Forbes, GQ, Cosmo, Women's Health. And so today, we are back, baby, in the saddle. The two blondes are blonding. And so, how we're going to do it for you guys today is we're going to do, as usual, like again, back to the old ways, like nothing's changed, good old times. We're going to hit some hot topics. We're talking Diddy. We're going to talk um, Oscars and celeb attention or lack thereof on Israel. We'll talk Kate Middleton. Like, is it a robot with a
It's
cancer?
really like going all over
We're
zigzag.
going all over, and then we're gonna get into Emily's life on the other side and her input now as the
You.
publicist queen bee
If you told me
dethroning
when I
those
was a
hoes.
journalist, like on red carpets, that I'd be a publicist one day, I would have thought that you were like
Who no
employed as the royal palace. Like, what is going on?
plot twist of our time. So welcome to the
Oh my
show.
God, the
Time.
throwback of my dreams. This is amazing.
No, same.
It's literally
Like
all coming back to me.
Gavin Newsom, watch out. Like we're still coming for you, babe.
Watch
Sorry.
out.
You're like
Close
your
to the
silver
wire.
fox. Your silver fox status can't save you.
I think all my
Um,
tax money is going to like maintaining his hair. Like I'm like 99% convinced. Like there's still
no,
like scientists who
no,
are working on this theory, but like I'm pretty solid in
no.
it.
You're like, that's why Fauci's gone missing because he's going into the trenches
Okay,
of this. Like,
no, but where did he go? Like he was
no,
an era. Like I know you have a lot to say on that. Like he literally was like on the cover of InStyle and then just like gone the next day.
no. The
And,
cover
like
of In Style because
is he
he's
hiding
looking
in one of
into
those
like,
Elon Musk monster trucks that like is on back order? Like where is he?
no, because he's going into like, how are Gavin Newsom's teeth whiter than ever, his hair stiffer than ever? It is your tax dollars. Like,
I mean, my hair is like yellowing because the brass in the water in California is actually
you
foul.
know,
But like
Gavin
Gavin's doing
Newsom's
like
thriving.
L'Oreal ads for his hair. Like what's going on?
No, no, exactly. So, before we get into it, just to establish even more of your street cred, I honestly am so proud of you. It's no, I said this to you offline, but like you're such a hustler, always was. And the fact that you're coming in here like guns blazing, like sorry to WME, like sorry to all of you people. It's like don't know her. Um name drop some of your name drop away, like, please, before we get into this. Let the
Yeah.
peeps
Oh my
know.
God. Well, what can I tell you? Well, last night I was at the Dancing with the Stars tour with Harry, Harry Jowsey. We've worked with for 3 years. I adore him. Sophia Franklin, which was obviously half of the OG Call Her Daddy and has Sophia with an F. Bad Baby, which we all know her for what we know her for. Morgan Riddle, who's a tennis wag. God, there's so many. We have a roster of like 50 people. So it really just depends on who I'm pitching, of who I'm explaining who we rep. But there's a lot of names. Pookie. If they're on your For You page, we've probably repped them or had a meeting with them. That's like
It's
what I tell
insane. Didn't you work with Christine Quinn from Selling
Yes.
Sunset?
Oh my God. I worked with Christine for years. I just texted her the other day.
Oh,
How to
see,
talk
casual.
Jesse, yeah, definitely like all those Netflix people. We have people right now that we're working with for filming The Circle. We're talking about from The Bachelor this season. Love is Blind. Oh my God, Love is Blind. Yeah, there's so many people. Like usually I just watch a Netflix show or ABC show that everyone else is streaming, and then my team just starts cold pitching immediately and being like, let's talk. Like, how do we create longevity out of like this 15 minutes and turn it into like a global brand?
And you have literally, I was just going to say that you have hoes in different area codes because you've expanded you're in LA, but you have offices in London and New York. Like, excuse me.
But I'm so like girly that I'm just like, oh my God, I love London. Let's do it. And like, I didn't realize that like, oh, you need like a bank, you need a lawyer, you need like a business license. You can't just be like, yeah. And so like, we finally like were able to make money in London, like me, like my $3 in my business account there. But yeah, it's been really fun to kind of just branch it out. And we just hired our first boy, which I never thought I'd see the day. But yeah, there's 20 of us. One is a boy.
One is a boy. Amazing. What's his name?
Zach with a K. That's like a trendy
Zach
thing.
crushing it. So Emily, hashtag Emily's life matters, Zach life matters. Remember when we did the episode, that was like Jenner lives matter, and we meet Brody. Do you remember that? It's insane that we didn't get like I feel like our show was like cancel culture before its time because we remember we had an episode called the Real Housewives of Wuhan in the height of the pandemic.
I know. Like I literally remember that. Like, yeah, like the light of day. Like it actually was so funny. I was like at a party maybe a month and a half ago, and I was like, it was basically like a group of like really classy, like uppity women like networking, and then all of a sudden like someone brings mushrooms, and we all like literally like did shrooms together, and like one of the women at the event was one of like I think she was victim like 7 of COVID, and she was like literally like on vacation like in Wuhan, and like she was one of them. I didn't know what hit me, and I'm like, oh girl, if we met during 2020, like you would have been like on the show on the pod, hard hitting exclusive.
Oh my God, hard hitting. She was like patient X on that cruise ship. Do you remember the one that came in LA?
100%. Yeah. Really
okay. So
get the mac and cheese away from us.
No. So okay. Let's get into it like as the blondes do, some hard-hitting stuff going on. So first of all, I can't see a screen without seeing Diddy's home being ransacked, like by the feds, like Mar-a-Lago who. Meanwhile, this is all going on at the same time as the Quiet on Set documentary. So I have like kind of big picture view and takeaway of all of this, but give me your thoughts on Diddy. Like Cassie, blink twice if you can hear us. Like what is happening?
When Insane. It rains, it pours. Like it is crazy. Cassie's also one of Cassie's husband or boyfriend or someone like has a cowboy brand, and he asked us to do PR for him a while ago. So that's neither here nor there. But
wait, are you gonna?
So he's like kind of talked about as being a little bit of a weirdo like around these parts. So no, I don't think so. But I did get on the phone with him and did that whole thing. But yeah, no, I am shook about Diddy. The fact that this man knows exactly where to land his plane so he won't be like called back into America to stand trial or whatever for his crimes is absolutely redonkadonk. Like I've been getting my news. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on TikTok. I've been getting it from Aubrey O'Day's like OnlyFans account. Like she is delivering the tea. Like
she's like saving journalism. Is Aubrey O'Day's tits on her OnlyFans?
It's like she's been waiting for this day, and so Aubrey is like my go-to news source. Like she is just like she's relishing in this. Like
it's her Super Bowl. It's her Super Bowl. 100%. So basically, he's getting they're looking into him for like trafficking and all kinds of. Do you think that I mean, I saw a video of his sons being dragged out, but apparently, like you said, he took like Aladdin's carpet over to Jeffrey Epstein's island, like on cue. So is it where there's smoke, there's fire? Do you think that this is a witch hunt? Because I don't know about you, Em, but I feel like it's only a matter of time, which is my bigger point about all this, until this shit is yet another like Me Too thing that's politicized.
It's all interconnected. Like he definitely, like Kate is probably like a stowaway on his plane at this point. Like I like I have so many thoughts about it. I cannot believe this man like exited the chat and left his children to like take the fall for him. But I mean I can, because it's like welcome to Hollywood. I think it's not real, it's a simulation. But also like the fact that there were government tanks at his house in like the valley is beyond me. Like, are we really? I look at those pictures and immediately I think, oh my God, I'm so glad we have the resources to spend all of our tax dollars on sending a tank with the army to Diddy's house.
Like, you would think it's Bin Laden's ghost. Like,
let me think of all the other things that we can spend our money on first. Like, number one, like taxes. Like, what are we doing here? Like, what? It's just ridiculous. It's so crazy to me that we actually like made a spectacle out of it in that way.
So for me, and also I'm so curious to see how this unfolds in terms of what actually, if and what whatever happened, who knew what, who did, like, if these were the best kept secrets. And it's like Kate Middleton thought with her diagnosis, like this was the best kept secret, and people just didn't speak out, because this also kind of plays into the Quiet on Set documentary that has just taken over, which has exposed all the Nickelodeon like child predators that work there and molested children at Nickelodeon. Even during, it's come out now that Drake Bell was one of the victims. He was not named at the time because he was a minor, but was allegedly assaulted by Brian Peck. Did you hear about this? Who was one of the big like coaches or something on the sets, and this man literally served prison time for being a child predator. And at the time, people wrote him like a la Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, like wrote letters defending him. But James this man Marsden,
was really James really?
Marsden.
Okay, James Marsden of those people, like you have to like honestly, everything he does, he should lead with like, do I have enough short king energy to do this? Okay. Like you are not a 6'3" celebrity. Like you're barely scratching 5'9". Like everything you do, you should think strategically if you have enough short energy to do that. And like, you're not going to get criticized the same way because you're short. You're automatically like going to be in the wrong. So it's like, he should have known that like, that is just not a move to make. You're not 6'4".
It's mini size. So what you do packs a punch. Like it's gonna have impact.
And like, much worse for you.
Like Ryan Gosling's speech in the Notebook, like James Martin, like, what do you want? What do you want? Like, what is that? But here's where it gets dicey, Em, and I'm curious for your thoughts, because similarly to when Danny Masterson was on trial and Mila and Ashton wrote letters that they thought never would see the light of day, and it became the talking point of like everyone's like crumpet and tea time heard around the world. At the time, I have to say, this is where it all gets so messy, because it's like versus a Brian Peck, who is a convicted child molester, writing letters in his defense. With Mila and Ashton, I kind of defended them at the time. I was like, look, like the accusations against him were absolutely gut-wrenching and horrible against Danny. I read them. But I also was like, these are like, they're writing about the friend that they know and love as a character witness. Like, are we going to crucify them for that? I don't know. It gets a little like micey dicey.
It gets dicey, especially because like I could see that from a crisis management perspective, which is what I do. I mean, when you have clients who are digitally native and like they say one wrong thing on a podcast, they comment one wrong thing on Instagram, and it's headlines galore. It's like, you're going to want to do everything that you can to make it right. And there's been times where I'm like, oh, I definitely just secured like my one-way ticket to hell from like how I fix this situation or how I put a band-aid on a bullet wound. And like, that's what they're trying to do. Like they're putting a band-aid on a bullet wound. Like you think criminal defense, whoever's representing Brian Koberger, you think that he's like, oh my God, I can never represent Brian Koberger who stabbed 4 children like in Idaho. Like, no, they're making money. They're like, these are people, like even the most horrible people in the world who like have to make really tough decisions to protect their clients are doing so, you know, for their own reasons, their own gain. Like somebody obviously like was defending Danny Masterson, had this idea and they made it work and they're making a lot of money to like pull these strings. So I think from that perspective too, it's like you kind of have to remove the emotion out of it and realize that like this is a case where it's someone's life going to jail. Like even though they are accused of doing horrific things, it's like you're gonna pull out every single thing you can out of that hat, out of that Mary Poppins bag to try to like save your life a little bit.
And that's on period, like the business savagery in Emily Blair
Savage. I
Marcus,
mean, it's
everybody.
savage. Like Diddy has a lawyer. Everybody has a lawyer. It's like it is what it is.
What do you think, being on both sides of it? Because something that Drake, so my friend Sarah Fraser, who's been on the show, I've been on her show, had the first exclusive interview with Drake Bell. And he's kind of like the subject of this whole documentary. Because like I said, he's been pretty much nameless because he was a minor at the time and all of the like horrible assault he endured. But something he pointed out, and I was like, let's go, like, come through Drake, is how the media was so silent about all of this shit going on at Nickelodeon. And he's like, I don't know, like, I'm no journalist, but I'm gonna like look into this. Like, is that a story not worth reporting? And it kind of reminds me of how just all of this is like people crusade about Me Too all day, and it's all when it's so convenient to them. Like, remember when I interviewed the R. Kelly survivors and they straight up were like, no celebrity wants to say anything because they're covering their own ass, but they'll wear
Yeah,
black on red carpets like in mourning all day. Like,
100%. It is a crusade to some degree. I think that like really never know who's going to be hit next. Diddy, I mean, yeah, we all could have seen that from like the cruise ship that has Kate Middleton somewhere in the abyss that was turned away during COVID and all the first survivors, like that one we all saw coming. But like no, I think that it's so true. It's like people are walking on eggshells and like there's always that standard. What hit me when I saw Quiet on Set was like, okay, Drake Bell, he's a huge name, he's a big name, like granted, like he is definitely like a large part of like Nickelodeon. Why couldn't they get Jamie Lynn? Why couldn't they get Amanda? Why couldn't they get Ariana to at least give a statement? Like why couldn't they get these other people? Like that's what struck me. I was like,
so
why?
true.
Jamie Lynn Spears at Dancing with the Stars. That girlie has enough time on her hands, and she's doing every single reality show that is like in
No.
existence. Like, she has enough time to do Quiet on the Set. And
She's
so
reviving Teen Mom. Like
100%, 100%. That to me was like, that's the elephant in the room that no one spoke about. Like, yeah, like he's great. Also, Miranda
so
Cosgrove,
true.
like Josh Peck, like why aren't these people also appearing? Why do they cast it around Drake, who again, like huge part of my childhood, like let's fucking go. I think I saw him in concert when I was like 11. But why were these other people not, like, why were they so petrified to be part of it? Or why didn't they?
I mean, doesn't it kind of play into, and unless all of this is so egregiously wrong, like you're right, why wouldn't any, is it this whole thing of just saving your own ass and every man for themselves? I mean, there's footage from the documentary of these child predators, which again, are there no other bright minds of America that were hiring child predators to work at Nickelodeon? Like that's something in and of itself. But footage of them making Ariana Grande do all of these like soft porn, basically like squirting water on herself as like a 12-year-old for Nickelodeon, like all of this crazy stuff. Right? Why wouldn't they say anything? Like,
It's so ridiculous. It's like, are they still hoping that there's a world where like maybe they're hoping there's a world where they can still work with the network in some capacity and they don't want to burn the bridge. Maybe they're scared that if they put their name out there and like start talking, that people will start unearthing things about them. Like there's so many different reasons. I also watched that and I was like, because I think objectively as journalists, and you and I've had conversations like this a lot, like granted, there were some things when I watched that documentary where I was like, that's objectively disgusting. And like, I think that we can all see that. And there are other parts where I'm like, okay, are we really trying to put like the pieces of the puzzle together and be like, oh, that's inappropriate. Like, is it too forced? Like, did they actually like intend for it to be a sick joke? Or are we just kind of like, are our minds so used to trying to see the negative in every situation that we're trying to assume that it's a sick joke? And I think there's a little bit of both maybe, but like, that's, I don't know. I always question things from that standpoint of like, are we all just going to immediately be like, cancel? Or are we really trying to force this? And like, was it actually like that? I don't know, because there were like female writers in the room who, also I don't think we're as dirty and sick-minded as Dan. So I don't know. I don't know.
It's also, this is why I think the Diddy thing is at such a like pivotal time in all of this, because to your point, it's all become so like black and white. And so you think about something like Quiet on Set, like to Drake Bell's point, like why did no journalist cover this? Like why was there like one piece from like an independent blog in a mom's basement. Like why did nobody
Why did
write
it take
about
so
this?
long? That's why I feel about Malaysia Airlines. Like, why did it take 10 years for somebody to
No,
like finally make a
exactly.
Netflix documentary?
Malaysia Airlines. Like you have something like that the media, like, again, what do you guys have at stake? And then you have, this is where sadly it's become so politicized. Then you have like a Dr. Christine Ford, but because she's speaking up against a a conservative with Kavanaugh, like every media outlet is willing to jump on it immediately and be like, believe her, like believe all women. It's like, bro, have consistency. So that's why with Diddy, we'll see.
100%. And like with Drake and Amanda, like granted, I know that they were like trying to like give Drake this platform to like speak about this, but like I think it's also really, it would have been great to highlight the fact that like these people who are brought up in this machine of Nickelodeon, like Drake is no saint. He's done some pretty insane things over the last 5 years. And so that's probably a direct byproduct. Like, I'm no psychologist. I'm just a girl, literally just a girl. But like, even I can see that it's probably a direct result of like how fucked up his childhood was and like how, developmentally like challenged he may have been because of that. And like the way he's acting. Same with Amanda Bynes. Like, that doesn't just happen to anybody. Like, that is because of what happened to you. And I would have liked them to analyze that more too.
Oh, do I sense a thing?
Well,
She's like, and I'm gonna tie it into the conspiracy of Malaysian Airlines. It's gonna be an op-ed hitting your doorstep soon.
you
Sunday
better believe
morning
that
times.
submarine will be included too. You better believe.
No,
Her in there.
no. So we
The
will
memes
see.
that came out around the submarine, that was another thing that I reshared that I'm like, I'm
God,
definitely going to hell. Like, I don't know if you
iconic,
saw that, but like the
iconic.
pictures of all those like strippers underwater who are like me if I found out that there was like a billionaire like deep in the ocean and they're just like, yeah.
Like
So
no shame to go to whatever lengths. She works
no
hard for the
shame.
money. And if it's
Any
in
length
the like
possible.
no, and it's in the if it's in the depths of the Atlantic, like so be it. Like the dollar screams loud. What can
I
I
know how to
say?
breaststroke. Let's go. I can hold my breath.
Like literally breaststroke. It's a
I
stripper
love.
pole move. Okay, let's pivot from, the weaponization of Me Too to what have you, but the weaponization of Israel. We're both like Jew girls. We're both passionate about this topic. Not to do too much of an Ocean Gate deep dive into this, but you and I were both vocal about the Oscars, how you have like Billie Eilish, Mark Ruffalo, like all these people wearing Artists for Ceasefire pins. You had Jonathan Glazer, who directed a movie literally about Auschwitz, go up and do a whole speech about how the Holocaust has been hijacked and Judaism, like refuting his Judaism and all of this. And so it's just not cool to be a Jew in Hollywood. I'm like, don't know what to say. Just is not the trend.
It's
Okay.
crazy. And the thing that I try to do to like make it very easy for people to digest, like where they can't like refute it, is just try to explain that this is literally about Judaism. Like, yeah, it's like there's a bunch of political turmoil happening thousands of miles away. And like there's a lot of new people who just became super fans of this conflict like 2 days ago and think that they have a wealth of information based on Twitter. But it's like this directly goes back to like anti-Semitism, which is actually illegal. Like the fact that like I just wish people could understand that part of it and like how dangerous that is. Like right after Jonathan Glazer said those comments, like where he refuted his Judaism, I was at this coffee shop in Santa Monica that I always worked at like a few weeks ago. And I heard these random people like behind me talking about it. And like I used to be like kind of crazy where I like interject myself in conversations. And now I'm just like, I'm more of a listener because I don't know, honestly, like I just feel like it's just not worth it. Like some people are just so warped that you're never going to get through to them. And they were saying how like they were just making such anti-Semitic remarks and like praising him and like not understanding the weight of like what's actually happening. And it's just like when you look at the facts, like there actually have been so many ceasefires on the table. Like Israel's not the one turning them down, it's Hamas, because they won't release innocent people. I just think it's such a double standard that like the New York Times, who is honestly a pretty liberal publication and like they do a lot of due diligence, the fact that they're reporting so many rapes that are happening like from these hostages and they're giving excruciating detail and people are like, I don't believe it. That to me is just like, okay, so we believe some women but not Jewish women. Like where's the line? It's just so confusing to me.
Again, like where are the Emma Watsons, the Michelle Obamas, like all these people who like where are they?
It's
It's
just
such a
crazy.
double standard.
It's such a double standard. And I think that unfortunately what's happening, and I know you're really into like the political side of things like that, we're going to become more and more divided. Like the middle
Mhm.
ground, the moderate world that I think a lot of people that we know fall under, like a lot of people I know at least who are entrepreneurial are pretty, they kind of lean fiscally conservative and socially liberal. And like, I think that that gap is going to grow more and more and more when we show up at
Mhm.
the polls and we're forced to make a decision of what we care about more. Like, I think that's going to be
Mhm.
awful because when you look at like the courts, like obviously women in America are dealing with some pretty fucked up shit right now. But like also when you look at
Mhm.
the national security side of things, like we're not in the best, we're not in the best state, and we're really abandoning a lot of our allies right now. And so I think that it's just going to get more and more divided, and like it's just not going to do us any favors, especially like the new surgence of like 20 somethings, 30 somethings that are like
Mhm.
really trying to create, you know, financial freedom for themselves and like build careers and like have lives. Like it's just going to get more and more divided. It's like you're either Bernie Sanders or you're Trump. Like you can, the in between
Mhm.
is becoming more and more of a question mark. It's really crazy.
Mhm. My big takeaway too was like, I don't know if you saw this video, but it was so infuriating where Mark Ruffalo, because at the Oscars, there were all these pro-Palestinian protesters who were like holding up, I think like celebs getting in, like it was a whole thing. Same thing with Sundance. And there's a video of Mark Ruffalo on the red carpet, which like Mark, like we need a chat because you also remember when Mark Ruffalo like nicknamed a child molester during the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing? Like you're like nicknaming and being best friends with like child rapists. So like let's have a seat. But there was a video of him on the Oscars red carpet, and he's like, "Protesters, shut it down! Like, go Gaza!" And it's like, look, like I'm a free expression girl, obviously through and through. That's what my entire show is about. But my issue with this entire thing, and I said this literally the next day, is obviously I'm pro-Israel. I don't have to agree with everything that Netanyahu has carried out, even his motives or his tactics, but like basic kind of question is why we be focusing on like Israel and like you're bad ceasefire and like not barbaric terrorists. Like question about that.
Like
Like
a
anybody?
it's a mind fuck to me, especially because there was a ceasefire on October 6th. And also, like, I don't know if people realize this, like, the people that were taken hostage and that were brutally, savagely murdered, raped, dismembered, set on fire, these are not political people. They're not people who are living in Tel Aviv, even. These are like the most
Mhm.
innocent. Also, these people tend to be the most pro Gaza, like wanting even more and more rights for like their neighbors, and like they're pretty against the Israeli government. Like these are people who live on kibbutzes. A lot of them
Mhm.
work directly with people in Gaza. They went over there a lot. Like these are the most, it's like going into an old age home of people who are really, really liberal and slaughtering all of them. Like
Mhm.
you're not, it's just it's a mind fuck to me. Like this wasn't a political attack. This is an attack on the most vulnerable and the people who are most likely to be your friends and to like advocate for your rights. And so it's like it's just a total mind fuck. Like I think about it sometimes when I get really sad because I'm like the fact that people like really can't fathom that is like ridiculous to me. I don't know. It's like when you compare it to like other political prisoners and like people who are dealing with bad situations elsewhere, like Brittany Griner, for example, like she went into
Mhm.
Russia with drugs that are illegal in Russia and like got herself in a really bad situation. Granted, Russia's like, of course, they're going to use it as an opportunity to like make a statement, but like that didn't happen here. Like these people were like normal humans doing living their lives as innocently as possible were savagely targeted. And like,
Mhm.
why can't we just call that what it is? It's so
Mhm.
confusing to me. It's like when you take away all the politics of it and all the like
Yep.
government and occupation and whatever buzzwords you want to throw around, it's like that's as simple as it is to me. And I just don't understand why people are like trying to insert themselves in a conversation where it's like, if you
Yeah.
actually know the facts, like there's been several options for ceasefires where all Israel wants back is their hostages, and they're willing to give back a lot of prisoners, and people can't, like Hamas says.
No.
We even did an interview with the New York Times, Hamas. I don't know if you saw this, but
Yeah.
a reporter from the New York Times went to Qatar and talked to the leaders, and they were like, their own quotes, not mine. They literally said, we don't care about rights for our people. We don't care about
No.
finishing this war as fast as possible. We don't care about getting water and food there. We only care about the destruction of the Jewish state.
Literally, like they've been on record so many times being like, we will sacrifice as many. We want to annihilate and exterminate all Jews. And yet again, this is where people in Hollywood and beyond are so fucking dumb. It's like, where is the critical thinking and where is the focus on that? But instead it's like, let's make Jews and Israel the monster. And as somebody like you who have seen so many of these like social justice causes. Like, again, you and I were on the front lines of Me Too, of BLM. Like, Hollywood are the first fucking people to be all righteous and holier than thou and on their soapbox. And I know I opened this with a joke of like, it's not cool to be a Jew in Hollywood, but literally, it's like, where is anybody
True.
talking about this? And I don't know about you, but I feel like it's literally been dumbed. Like, people are so stupid. It's literally been dumbed down to like, they're viewing it through an American lens, like an Americanized lens of like white versus of color. And it's like, Jews aren't even white. Like, like, this is not the same thing. So I
It's
think that's a big part of it. And it just goes to show how stupid they are.
it's really scary because it's like I also have friends, like one of my best friends is Muslim. Like her whole family is from Iran, like, and I adore her. And it's like, it's just crazy to me that like by the Jews were attacked on one of the holiest days of like the Jewish calendar. And like Gavin, our governor of California, of Hollywood, put out a letter saying that we're so sorry that people in the Middle East are dealing with this horrible crisis during Ramadan, and that he really supports the communities here in California that are suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Not once did he mention the Jews at all, which is just like, it to me, it's really sad. You should read that letter. I don't know if you have already. It's actually like, it was an out of body experience. Actually, I just called my mom and started crying of like how unsafe and how like scared I felt, and like how obviously, yeah, I'm like aware enough to know that I'm like, I live in Brentwood and I'm fine. Like I will be like,
Right.
it's not directly targeting me, but it's just like the concept of this ideology is how the Holocaust started. That's just the truth.
And again, it's like, sometimes I look at this and yes, it's so complicated, but in some ways it's like not that complicated.
It's
Like,
so simple.
this is literally good versus evil. And again, like, just to wrap this up, for people who more than ever in the public sphere and of prominence and in Hollywood, who are so high and mighty and willing to speak up about any minority group, which, like, plot twist, Jews are, but no one likes to acknowledge that, or injustices, it's like, where is the energy? So that to me is wild. And again, it just goes to show how they're all sheep, because like, what, it's not like the cool thing. Like, are you guys
Exactly.
okay?
It's really insane to me when you break it down in as simplistically as you possibly can, where it's like, to me, as simplistic as this is, it's anti-Semitism.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just so crazy to me that it's 2024 and we're living through, my great grandpa was shot and killed on a horse in Russia for being a Jew by pogroms. Like, that's like, what's different?
It's like a version of like white guilt, because now that you talk about it, I'm thinking about it, because Jews make up a lot of Hollywood, and I'm like, do they just hate themselves? Well, I guess because like Jonathan Glazer,
There are
like,
tons
IE,
of
but it's like, what's a sitch?
it's so bonkers to me. It's so bonkers. I don't know where we go
Insane.
from here. And it's just, I also just wish that like some people, like, you don't need to be, and I feel like we talked this before, you don't need to be a part of every conversation. There are conversations that I hear that I'm like, you know what? I'm not the expert there. You
Mm-hmm.
guys do you. I'm going to sit this one out. Like, sometimes there's power in just this one out. The amount of people I know who are feeling like compelled to interject themselves in something that they do not understand
Billie
is
Eilish. Sorry.
What?
We're just really dry in Nashville here today. Okay, so to take a turn, thank you for your input on that. So beautifully said. To take a turn, but again, it's like Hollywood. Like, are we going to expect them to have more brain cells? Before we get into like the Kate Middleton Westworld AI robot of like Elon Musk's wet dreams, speaking of Billie Eilish, can we just reminisce? Because a part of this and I did want to talk about too, you got ahead of me with my notes, like, duh, two blondes, one brain. Is now that you two blondes, one brain, now that you are representing people, because something we talked about on the show is what you just alluded to, like when and what to speak up about, and like, do celebrities need to have a say in this? When don't they? But before that, can we please talk about, like, let's each give an example. I'm actually going to like give you yours, of somebody who we interviewed when they were nobodies, and now you can't even get a pinky finger near them. So before the Kate Middleton, before all that, can you please bring us back to when you encountered Billie Eilish and her publicist, when they were like,
How do
please,
you
will you
remember this?
remember?
How do you remember?
I remember
Your
you talking
brain
about it on our
works
show.
in mysterious ways. It was at the ASCAP Awards in probably 2017. The ASCAP is like a songwriter award, you guys. And I think that Billie was there for Ocean Eyes or something, one of her really, really, really early songs. And she had blue hair, a yellow hoodie, I was like, who is this girl? Never heard of her. Her publicist, who's a really, really powerful music publicist, was begging me. It was like she was about to give me like a lifetime membership to Equinox to interview and was
No.
handing me a little brief on her and everything. And I think I asked her, like, we all do favorite
Great.
interviews.
She gave you like a Scientology, like
Not
Jehovah's
her.
Witness pamphlet on
No,
Billie
I
Eilish.
actually think it like belongs in like a museum. Like I should see if I still have it and sell it on eBay and like maybe I'll sneeze on it and say it's her snot or something. But yeah, no, it was crazy. And like we've
I'm
all
dead.
done every journalist, and it's funny being a publicist, I know this was happening. I know when this happens to my clients now, everyone has done a favor interview. And so you ask a few questions like, where are you here tonight? Like, who are you wearing? Like, who cares? Move along. Like the amount of people that I had that with Priyanka Chopra, I spent 7 minutes at the Emmys one year interviewing her about her lipstick color.
No,
Like, I'm not even
yes.
kidding.
Now imagine getting near her. Imagine
Getting within a foot of her, like
no.
before, like I mean, you have to go through like 14 billion trillion people, like the whole nation of India. Like she's basically the Angelina Jolie of India. Like she's untouchable. Like it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. So Billie Eilish, that was like, and if we put our brains together, they to make two complete brain cells, no, but we could have so many stories like that because it's Hollywood, baby, and you're not nobody until you're somebody, and everyone wants a piece of you. The Billie Eilish thing with you always cracks me up. Do you remember one of mine? But Sydney Sweeney. Imagine getting near that bitch now. Like she is everywhere I've ever seen.
On like back to the Talk to Me Taylor days, like with your little whiteboard and like the campaigns you used to do, like
The whole thing.
Everybody.
And one that sticks out because with both of them, there's like, then it was like, please, like, we will give you, we will give you a night at Nobu in exchange to ask Sydney Sweeney one of her hobbies. Like, now this bitch is everywhere. I have, like, she's in Blimps in the Sky in Bumblefuck, Tennessee. Like, she's everywhere I've ever seen. It's like such an it girl. It's wild.
There's got to be 19 million clones of her at this point.
No,
like, I don't understand. She's so freaking smart. Like she basically like said, I forgot where she said this, but she was like, yeah, of course, like we played into the romance thing to promote that new movie. Like, are you guys dumb? Like she's so freaking smart.
With Glenn Powell. So when I interviewed her, it's when she was like basically an extra on The Handmaid's Tale. And I was like, okay, what can I pull out of the bushes to talk to this girl about? And she and I, funny enough, because now she's so iconic for her huge tits, and I had bigger boobs at the time because that's before I underwent my fitness body transformation, but we bonded about having big boobs. We're like sitting there like, woohoo, like basically braiding each other's hair at a slumber party. And we talked about how for The Handmaid's Tale, she had to tape them down. And I was like, well, in my 8th grade play, I was in The Sound of Music and I had to tape mine down too. And it was a whole ring around the rosy moment. And now plot twist, like her tits are the focal point of like every news
America. Was that for your platform or was that for an outlet you were reporting for?
Oh my God. Unfortunately, it was not for mine. It was I don't even know if it ended up running anywhere. It was probably for us.
But I think that's something that you always got these like hard hitting questions because people are honestly, it's interesting. Like I think that platforms like this are so cool too because people are more and more comfortable talking to real people rather than feeling like they have to be like media trained, scripted. Did I say this? Did I say that? Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Like it's so much easier to have a conversation with just a girl's girl rather than being like, oh my God, the weight of knowing, a lot of people might read this. I have no idea how the hell they're gonna run this. Like I could see why, like, that's why in my head you're explaining that, like, that would make so much sense for that to have been on, like, Talk to Me.
Well, oh, thanks. Well, it takes one to know one because you were such a genius at it too. Like Emily would straight up like Jedi mind these hoes until they were like, wait, what did I just say? But I'm curious, given that you have and do work with like something about Sydney Sweeney, because everything she says gets everyone's attention. But and she said a lot of controversial things. Like she's talked about like how she struggles to pay her rent. And I'm like, babe, like that HBO paycheck is not shy of your mansion. Like, let's get real. But even her body, like given that you've worked with like the Christine Quinns, like Sophia Franklin's and Sydney Sweeney, I've like whatever at her a little bit because she's been like, oh, everyone just like focuses on my boobs and not me as a serious actress. It's like, girl, just like own it and then go for yeah, she was like, everyone just like focuses on that. And in my head, I was like, just own that shit. Your tits are great. Like they infiltrated Euphoria and then go for Meryl's Oscar. Like, let's have at it. So
do whatever you can get. Oh my God.
Yeah. Curious for your thoughts, like given that you work with these like bombshells and how you think is the best way to like kind of like, I don't know, put yourself out there in that way and frame it and position yourself,
I think women are so dynamic. And I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. I forgot if it was honestly my therapist or a friend or like a podcast or what it was, but I think that we have the power to like, I don't want to say manipulate, but honestly, to handle situations so much more differently than men. Like men only have themselves. Like women, we can play dumb when we know exactly what the hell is going on. We can feed into our sexuality and our femininity and use that as like a strategy when again, we know exactly what's going on. Like we have the power to do a lot more. And I honestly think we should embrace that and not hide from it and like use that as a power tool. Like if people think that if people think Margot Robbie's some dumb blonde when she's actually, one of the highest grossing actresses in the fucking universe, like that's totally fine. And I think that a lot of people are just so scared to do that and just feel like we should all be in suits and like we should be in the men's room and act exactly how men do. Like, no, I think that we should play into our femininity as much as we possibly can and use that as a superpower, because I think it also shocks people a lot more when they see a pretty girl that has a high IQ. And I think too many women are trying to be men and trying to like compete directly with men when we shouldn't be looking at it like that. I think we should be looking at it like playing into what we have that they don't. And like Sydney Sweeney, like is the last person you would have seen coming, maybe from miles away to be who she is. But it's like, and that's totally fine because guess what? She shocked all of you, and all of your bingo cards could never have predicted that one.
No. And when you, even from my own experience, like when you stand in that power and you set those boundaries and like own that, they are like, yes, ma'am. Like I salute, like I will not fuck. I will not fuck. Yeah. 100. It's like, you don't have to be Hillary Clinton with a butch haircut, babe. Like,
no, I mean, honestly, it's crazy.
So speaking of, poor Kate Middleton just keeps getting put in the Buckingham Palace back burner. But this goes perfectly off of that, which is an episode, my last episode that I just did, and people came out of the woodwork. Men, women, you name it. Like the ghosts of podcast pass about the Megan Fox Call Her Daddy interview, speaking to this very thing and how it wasn't even Megan Fox per se, as much as Alex Cooper, like doing this whole like, woe is me sort of like victimization of women and objectification and everything that's wrong with our society and misogyny. And I'm like, girl, like, okay, misogyny's rampant. Like I would get executed for wearing this top in another country, and you want to call misogyny Megan Fox being our culture's like most iconic sex symbol? Like, get your priorities straight. So with that being said, dying to know, because so many people are passionate about this, it's such a huge show, and given like your kind of like insider knowledge working with Sophia and just watching the evolution of the show through the years, like from a PR marketing POV, please tell us what you think about Alex Cooper and Call Her Daddy going from like the raunchy, like owning it as a woman, doing locker room, like male talk, like here's how to give a blowjob, to now like, let's talk about our traumas and like be Martha Stewart. Like, is this not the armpit growing feminism rebrand of our time?
It's so interesting because like it kind of goes back to exactly what we just said. How I think there's like something so unconventional still, it shouldn't be, but it is, about women playing into our strong suits as women and how we can like read a room differently, and like we're more in tune with our emotions. Like we're able to, I mean, I will go to my grave saying that I think that like women are, smarter than men. I think that we are just like more dialed in than them. I think that also, I don't know if I told you my theory, but boy years are different than girl years. So for all the girlies out there, if you're dating a 25-year-old, he's actually 15 mentally. It's just how it goes. And so I think that that's what made that show so unconventional, is like for once we were saying what everybody was thinking. I mean, like, oh my God, I wish that I had the show when I was in high school, when I was trying to figure out how to do a bunch of things, and trying to figure out like who I am and where I fit into this whole puzzle of like, when you're having a lot of firsts at that age, it's like there was nobody to talk you through it. You had to Google and end up on like Reddit threads. You had to end up on like some, Quora.com thing that's meant for like test answers in college. Like you were just trying to figure out anything you could about how to be a girl and how to be a woman. And like, I think that that's what the show came out of the woodwork and did so phenomenally well. And it is really interesting that like Sophia's audience plays into that OG listener who like wants to have girl talk, wants to shoot the shit, wants to just like leave, nothing to the imagination and have that conversation. And, Alex decided to go in a completely different route and like Martha Stewart it up and kind of like create a talk show for like, I think that insert herself in the mental health conversation and talk about that. And like, there's a lot of cooks in that kitchen already. And so, I mean, it's worked extremely well for her. I mean, she's just had a Skims campaign. She's done great things, but like, it's also worked super well for Sophia because like that person is still out there. Like it might not be as popular to be like, wait, I still want to know about this advice. I still want to know about that advice. I still want to know how to be like the baddest bitch in the room. But that voice is loud. That voice drives hundreds of thousands of listeners per episode. So we're really, really playing into that and like bringing that back to the forefront. And it's been amazing to see that that reception and that interest is still there.
Question. First of all, love that. Like super authentic and entertaining. Do you think like, because you talk about how like this new route it's taken and like hardcore left that call her daddy has taken like appeals to a big audience, but like from let's be real, like she has the Spotify, she has like a huge tribe of like a village of people, right? Do you think that it's like the safer thing? It's like this is like like let again our wallets and our pockets and our money talk. So is it like this quote safer thing to quote appeal to more people, right? It's like do they just not want to like rock the boat, or is it like again against everything that we're saying, is it like no, she needs to be taken quote seriously, like as if you can't be taken seriously as a woman in certain ways, right? Which is bogus, but like what do you think that is?
That's so sad. Like even to hear you say it as like you really need that
Right?
to take it seriously because I think a lot of her interviews are still trying to brand her as this woman who is like changing the conversation around sex. She doesn't talk about sex anymore, ever. She does. She just doesn't.
I
So
heard
it's like,
like Anita say butthole once, and I was like, whoa. And again, I'm not like an avid, I'll just see, I'm not like a whatever it is, like loyal by any means. I'll just see random clips here and there on my Explore. But
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And granted, I'm doing audits all the time for my clients' competitors. I'm seeing what they're doing. I'm figuring it out. I'm very dialed in. And like, it is not, that's not what it is. It's just like, that's what it was. That's what Sophia with an F is, but that's not what the show is. And so I think that it 100% is easier to just like play the game and let people brand you the
Play
way
the
they want to,
game.
people with deep, 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 deep pockets for sure. 100%. I think it is safer, like without a doubt.
Play the game. It's even so funny image wise. Like you look at the very beginning and she'll be in like string bikinis or whatever. And like now it's like black Chanel jumpsuits, head to toe only, slick back hair. So to me, like the whole
There's a
branding
lot of
evolution is fascinating, you know,
100%.
in
And it's
that.
like, it's also something that I tell my clients a lot, even outside of the context of like what Alex is able to do. Like, if you want to like if you want to do something like that, it costs a lot of money. It's a humongous investment. Like stylists these days per look are like $2,000. And like if you want to like that's just to get any random showroom brand. If you want to wear all designer, that's designer loans. All of a sudden you're leaving your house $5,000 poorer and you're wearing borrowed YSL. And it's like you're going to an event and you're speaking there. And it's okay, is your team gonna come with you? Like what hotel are you staying at? Are you gonna like, are you gonna have your glam squad with you? Like it's just are you going to do a press dinner when you're there? Like these are not, it didn't all just fall out of the sky. It doesn't grow on the orange tree around the corner. Like it takes a
So
lot of
true.
money to grow a brand
So
like
true.
that. It takes a lot of money. It's not like, it's not just an Instagram. Like when I look at Instagram photos, I'm so fucking jaded that like I dissect everything. Like I just know, like I know the brands that are doing what they're doing now. Like there are other brands that are way cooler and way better, but like one brand might have more relevancy because they're doing an insane pop-up and they're paying Lori Harvey to be there for 5 seconds. Like it's just, it's money.
Money, honey. Indeed.
Money talks.
Money,
Crazy.
money talks, bitch. But I love what you said about women like being super hot and smart because like men's brains don't know what to do. And it is
We
like
should embrace
so rare
it
and cool.
more.
And I
Why do we
agree
hide from
completely.
it?
I wish women
It's
did.
not
And
a
it's like,
shock value.
I wish women did because it's like you have no idea how much you could like unleash and get done and accomplish and conquer. Like it's so sad that it's like even women fall victim to like being put in their own boxes, like
I
around all of
remember
it.
even I got into this industry so young, and I'll never forget this day. Like I was, because I know you know this, like I was so scared to tell people my age. And I
Yes.
remember when you came to my house in college for the first time, and you were like, "Oh my God, you have a lot of like sorority paraphernalia everywhere." And then it was like pi beta five, pi beta five, and then
Yes.
all of a sudden I was like, I yeah, I'm 19. Like it was just like so, it's like Hannah Montana.
I
But
told you she's a hustler. I had no idea. I was like, wow, this girl has a lot of like college pride, thinking you were like, I thought you were like 25, like, cause you were so accomplished and such a go-getter and just absolutely crushing it. That's right. And you even like, we both like shenagled our way with and around the red carpet and with Us Weekly and all that in our respective ways. But like, yeah, you kept on the low. Like, I'm in college doing this in order to pursue life and a career on the carpet. Like,
Yeah. I was
Goals, goals.
terrified. And I don't know if that's a girl thing. I honestly don't. I don't know if that's an everybody thing, but I never told people my age. I was very much a chameleon. I wanted to blend in. And I think that like I'm only now even a little bit more comfortable like standing out. And I think it's different now because I work with a lot of creators. And I think my agency's competitive edge is that we're young and we understand these people. We're not 50-year-old white dudes sitting around a market table trying to understand what Addison Rae is and why anybody cares. And so it's like
No,
different than what it was back then. It wasn't like that.
I know. Um, okay, we have like 5 minutes. So,
If you need to go over a little bit, you can too.
okay. Just to give her, this poor lady, like the time of day. I don't have much to say about this, but before we kind of like cap off with like your side of it and like what you're seeing now on the other side and like with kind of what you just alluded to, like where it's all going and the state of it. Um, I don't have much to say about the Kate Middleton thing, except like everyone should feel like the biggest fucking assholes that they were speculating about like her getting a facelift or cheating or all these things. Meanwhile, she comes out
ABL,
being
that was a
like,
good one.
meanwhile, she comes out being like, so I have cancer, you fucking assholes. So, punked to the entire internet, but just like your quick kind of riff and thoughts on that, because you're also so well versed in the royal family. And so dying to know your thoughts.
I just like, to me, the best thing to come out of this, which is so niche, is that Kensington Palace put out a job posting for a PR expert in-house. The pay is $20,000, but wait, it gets better. You have 20% off the Royal Gift store if you want this job. So
Like memorabilia for days. No.
if you want like teacups that have been manufactured probably in Wuhan that 19 million other people on the planet also have, it's your lucky day, you get 20% off. It's so wild to me. And then like immediately, like I think everybody in my orbit was like, oh, now everyone's gonna leave her alone. No, now you see the AI videos being like, this is from 2018 and XYZ and Elon Musk and she's dead and all these crazy, crazy things. It's like the internet just loves to attack, but it's weird because now it's AI. And like that wasn't even a word a few years ago that anybody understood in a mainstream context. So I have no freaking idea. I think it's terrifying because I think that the media, obviously we know this because we have been it to some degree, like can make you believe anything and can really thwart public perception. So it's just so freaking nuts. I have no idea if she's okay, where is she, what's going on, if she's alive. Like I don't know.
No.
Because I read headlines all the time and I'm like, there's some people who are convinced that she's not even alive anymore and they're just going to prepare for an announcement, and there's other people who are like, leave this poor woman alone. She's a family. She has kids. This is actually so socio. And then there's my sister who's literally making an AI video being like, she's not blinking here. Her ring is gone there. Her hair is longer and shorter here.
I mean,
so where do you think she is?
She's like with the Wuhan bat who's giving her guidance on how to deal with a big public scandal. Like
the OG. I mean,
he's unfairly prosecuted.
Win like an artist of the year at like at some kind of award show, because that is just like artist of the decade, really.
No. He's like, here's what happens when you're wrongfully canceled. Like, let me take you under my wing, literally.
Take you under my wing, Taylor.
Like, I don't even know what to say.
They were also the golden like people of the monarchy. Like they were like the future. Like when Charles and Camilla like exit the chat, like they were supposed to slide in and just fix shit. And I think they were going to bring this very like Kennedy OG like approach that people just love. Like they like Will and Kate are unproblematic. And it's just crazy to me that the palace is also like the fact that they even had to release that video and they're refuting everything. They usually don't address shit. Like they don't let you think. They let speculation run high. They don't address anything. The fact that they've addressed, and also just don't mind my nail, like it's literally worse than like
I love your nail.
Video. The fact that they just let it happen is also really peculiar to me, because I don't know. That just doesn't, it's not their style for crisis management.
So that's perfect, because it goes into exactly what I kind of want to like leave this off with, is how wild it is that celebrities, like you have this whole Kate Middleton thing, like speaking directly to people. And like when we were coming up on the scene on the carpet, it wasn't like that. Like there was no like Instagram, like it was just kind of starting. Now, like I can't go a day without seeing J-Lo like and taking out her like sweaty hair at the gym and like talking about the Bronx for some reason. It's like they're always on top of our heads. So now, given your point of view, this is kind of a twofold. But number one is how you guide your clients, because we always ragged on celebrities of like, why are you inserting yourself in this conversation? But then again, we're like free speech and free expression girls who are like, go ahead and say something. So like, how do you tell them to walk that line? And also, do you have like a newfound appreciation for the PR side, given again, plot twist, who would have thought that we like ragged on them all the time, being like, stop cock blocking our interviews. Like, don't ask me for questions beforehand. Like, please tell us the tea.
It's so crazy. Like, to answer your first question, it kind of goes back to what we were saying a few minutes ago. Like, I don't think you need to be a part of every single conversation. And I think that the clients of mine that honestly do the best, and I think that have the most career longevity, are the ones that have agents, managers, and publicists, like that have like a full team operating. Because if I work with clients without managers, it's just a lot of times there's no long-term game plan. And I think that they might make more impulsive decisions or not be on top of their shit the way that somebody who has, more to lose and has more coming up might. And so that's, interesting to me. I just really don't think you need to lend your voice to every single fucking thing ever. Like, nobody cares what you think about it. And like, why is it a headline? It's so wild. And then the second part is, it's so funny, like the way that I media train clients now, and my girls are assassins. Like, they are on every single interview with their clients. They're trained killers. Like, they are on every interview we do at every event. Like, they know how to shut that shit down and pivot like the best of them. And it's just interesting because I just know how to anticipate questions, how to like pivot, because I used to manipulate the crap out of people to get the headline I wanted. And so
yes, you did. You were a beast, a
it's
savant.
So, thank you so much. I mean, like Travis Kelce, who like I am the quarterback.
No.
Is he a quarterback?
No.
I don't know. That said, like it's just
Is he the quarterback?
I don't know, guys.
Like,
I'm
irrelevant because I am him.
No. Girl. Even the whole talk to camera thing, though, it's crazy because like you can beat press to the punch, kind of like how when Twitter came up, I remember the whole solely plain Hudson River story broke on Twitter. Like, it didn't break in the news cycle because now people are breaking their own news. They're, you can beat to the punch. If I had a client, and this has happened like a few years ago, where I knew that TMZ was going to run like an unfavorable story, and like I had that client go live on Instagram and address it first so we can beat TMZ to the punch. And it's like, you didn't have that option. So there is the two prong. Like sometimes I'm like, you have way too much access and exposure and nobody wants to hear from you that much. They don't care. Also, you shouldn't be that accessible to begin with. And then other times I'm like, get on your live right now.
I love that. It's kind of like what we were talking about. It's like the duality of being a woman. Like, you want to keep a little mystery, but also sometimes you're going to be like, own it, bitch, in other ways. Like, I love that. Cause I think if it's all or nothing the other way, like if you're too elusive, it's like you're on a farm somewhere like Harrison Ford. It's like, are you okay? Like, are you living and breathing? Like,
are you okay?
But then if you're everywhere, it's like, we get it. So 100%.
It's like, it's so true. I mean, I think that it's just such a balance because I'm always interested, and I'm sure you are too, in the stories of people that we never hear from. And then all of a sudden they're on the cover of Vogue and they're telling us about something that we've all been wondering for years. And that holds way more weight rather than if they're talking to a weekly every single day of their life.
Okay. Speaking of, given that like celebrities are their own press, like again, they can hop on IG, whatever it is, are magazines going to become obsolete?
It's so scary because why are they all going bankrupt? Like, to the powers that be, to the hedge funds, the VCs, to whoever the fucks, the banks that are owning these magazines, why are you shutting them down? Like, that is literally, it's always going to hold the same credibility. I talk to people about this all the time. Like, how, is getting an article on whatever magazine still is important, or getting on this list or that list still important as it once was. And it is. People are always going to care about the little like chip on their shoulder that's like, I did that. And I think we need the media to tell that story, even though speaking directly to audiences is more so for podcasts, more so for social media, that it has the same power and it has the same weight getting that sealed approval. One of my clients called magazine the other day, and what did he call it? An esteemed institution. I was like, wow, okay. Like, an esteemed institution. So it's like, you still need that variability. And so it's just crazy that there's so many magazines getting shut down and people getting laid off when that's literally like the vessel that we need the most. It's wild.
Crazy. Okay. What do you think? Another quick like twofold is like, now that you're on the other side of it, like a no that you tell your clients, like, do not go there. Don't say this, do this, whatever it is. And then on the flip side, who do you feel like is somebody right now who is just like fucking killing it with their marketing and like getting themselves out there?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think that every client is different. Sometimes I have people who their entire brand is their personal life, their relationship. Someone like Sophia, where it's like, she's going to get out there and she's going to tell you everything and leave nothing to the imagination. And then there's people who I don't recommend that with, because then it'll just immediately become a headline, or like people will not be able to look away from it, and you need to keep that to yourself or save it to give like a larger exclusive to somebody else. But I kind of think that a good rule of thumb is like when you're going through sorority rush, like the 4 B's. Like don't talk about like booze, Barack, your bank account, or what's the other one? Boys. Like that's kind of like a general rule of thumb. Like you can always tweak it a little bit based on like who you're talking to and what you need to say, but like don't say anything too nuts, because then you're gonna get me coming in someone's inbox being like, we need to retract this, we need to retract this, blah blah blah. um your second question, what was your second question?
Who's like killing it right now marketing wise? Like who is just on the pulse of like what you need to do?
Yeah, I mean Kate Middleton, just kidding. um who is on the,
Yes.
it's it's so interesting. I mean, like I think an
Or someone you
obvious
try to
one,
like emulate, like they're like, you know what I mean? Like that, like the way they distribute, the way they package, like whatever it is to stay relevant, you know?
yeah, yeah. Maybe it's an obvious one, but I just feel like Alex Earl has done a really good job with it. I know she's been around the block for like a long time, but I just think that she makes a lot of great moves, like with her podcast, with her brand is still interesting. Honestly, like she's someone who you think that could have been a viral overnight success and then could have disappeared into the stardust, like end of time, and she's still relevant. I don't know if that's like a good one, because that just feels like a basic answer. I'm trying to
But
think
it
of
is
some.
actually speaks to what you do because you are in the business and the art, which you get so skillfully of like in an ADD culture where it's like you're a flash in the pan, is creating that longevity and that relevance, right? Which is
It's
hard to
also
do right
interesting
now.
because I love looking at disruptors, like people who are just
Yeah.
they're somewhere where you don't think they should be. I think that's why Taylor Swift was so interesting with the whole NFL situation. Like I, as obviously as popular as she already is, she wasn't supposed to be there, and it's interesting to look at. And so I really want to dig more into WAG culture. I'm really trying to sign more. Like I have one girl on my roster who's dating the #1 US tennis player, and she was literally on the cover of the New York Times last summer, and the headline was the most famous woman in men's tennis. And I think that's just so edgy and cool. And I love to
Ooh,
work
I
with,
love
F1
that.
wags, people who have the opportunity. And again, that's what plays into our as our superpowers as women. Don't just think that you are a girlfriend on the sidelines and can't do anything and it's all about the man. Look at this as an opportunity for exposure. People are going to look at what you're wearing, what you're doing, what brands you care about, how you can like craft yourself around the sport. And I think that that's super interesting. And I really want to like lean more into that this year. I think that Taylor Swift made it okay to be a wag, kind of like how Victoria Beckham, once did.
Oh
Obviously,
my
she had
God.
they both had their own
Iconic.
careers, but it's like
Yeah.
Brittany Holmes on the cover of SI swimsuit. So
Yeah.
it's so interesting to me, and
That's
I'd love to lean more into
really,
that.
I love that you framed it that way because it's like the untrained eye. It's like, wait. Like, A doesn't belong with B. Like, one is not like the other. And so to see that and break out of the box and like someone being inserted into an environment they're not
People are
typically,
looking at
that's
Morgan.
genius.
Like Karen Wilson signed a huge deal with her, like Wilson Tennis. Like they don't
I love
sign deals
that.
with influencers, like they're signing deals with athletes, but they recognize her impact being at these events, and people care what she's wearing, what she's doing, what she's interested in. And so it's also like you're welcome to the sports fans because you're bringing in more viewers for your advertisers. We're making the world go round. So why are we so upset?
You know, it's funny because someone who I had in mind talking about killing it with marketing right now, and granted, she has like a whole country working for her, is Beyonce. And it actually goes into what you're saying because I think it's like genius marketing, but it's also like seeing Beyonce in country music. So, again, what we're not used to, and the way she's like distributed these like elusive, but like really punchy and super hot fucking like artwork and all of it. And like she'll put an Instagram post with like a little caption about being like, a Black woman in country, but it's not too much. Like, but it keeps us all being like, oh, I want to see more. So I think that's somebody who kind of captures like everything you just said right now and is like really killing it.
Totally. Because people have to pivot. Even Beyonce literally could like decide that she's moving to Mars and everybody would care. But it's like, how do you actually get people to like pay attention and stay dialed in when you're that relevant? Like, what is Madonna gonna do next after this tour?
Oh my
Honestly,
God.
like,
Poor
what is she gonna
Madonna.
do? So it's really really interesting.
Okay, lastly for you, because I could go with you forever and five ever, is first of all, this was so much fun.
I
Good,
love
like the
this.
good old days.
Good old days.
So nostalgic. Is there, again, I love my twofolds. Number one, like tell us a quick time when you had to be like bad publicist, like step in and be like the principal, because again, like the turntables, and then also just on like a fun light note, but like why you love doing this and like where you see it all going.
Yeah. Oh my God. God, there's so many instances where I've had to be bad cop. Is that okay to say bad cop? Like that's
Oh,
my brain goes
I
to that.
know. It's like you can't say shoot, what's the other one you can't? I mean, there's so many things you can't
There's
say.
so many freaking things you can't say. I'm
No.
trying to think, because there's so many times I feel like every single day I'm like trying to put out fires or storms or hurricanes. Um, I think it's honestly like it goes back into I just know how reporters think and operate. So I can luckily anticipate a lot of the time, or I can still manipulate the way that I want to. Like, for instance, I had a client who said something really bad when he was hot mic'd on a podcast a few years ago. And this is the client, like I found out TMZ was going to run something. And so before I had this client like fix it on his own socials, like I told TMZ, like, okay, like I need you to not run this story and I'll give you an exclusive statement like in 20 minutes. I just need to like wrap my head around this, but like I will give you the exclusive, just don't run something. And so they didn't, and then I had this client beat them to the punch anyway, and then I gave TMZ a statement that they just didn't care about either because the client already broke their own news. And so I think it's kind of just like manipulating it. I tried to not be as reactive as possible. Like I still am pretty reactive. Like I've had moments where I've had to like threaten someone's life to change a headline or something like that. Like for sure it can happen. Or the best part is when you do a story and then it just never gets published and like it just goes into the
Yeah.
list. And like that happens a lot because like editorial calendars are backed up. So I'm able to like rationalize why that might be and explain it to my client rather than just like sometimes people are like, is this ever going to go live? What's happening? And so, I mean, one time this is actually crazy. I had a client do a whole interview with a magazine with Glamour, and the story never went live because it mentioned something with Barstool, and Glamour ended up being scared of Barstool's legal team and killed the story.
Oh
I
my
was
God.
like,
I so
and
believe that though.
yeah, it's crazy. And like that, how do you manage that? How do you like yell at Glamour and not ruin your relationship with Glamour? But how do you like explain this to the client what happened? And so it's like it's just a
The
labyrinth.
politics.
Yeah.
The
It's like
politics of
it's
it
like a
all.
marathon. It's like an Olympic sport.
I also thought of things you can't say, like when you were like bad cop, it's like can't say master bedroom, can't say illegal immigrant, you're undocumented. Like, should I go on Redskins? Like the Redskins football team thought, like, shall I go
And I
on?
have clients who think this way, that way, that way, that way. And it's like
I love that though.
It's great. I mean, it keeps it so interesting. And like I tell people that I'm a chameleon. Like I think I have multi-personality disorder because I think I can be 19 different people at once, like depending on who I'm talking to. And like that's just when you're client facing and when you're a publicist, you really have to adapt to any freaking situation. You have to know how to have those skills. And so
100%.
I think that I just don't get offended. Like if you want to hurt my feelings, you have to actually take a knife and like physically stab me because like I just don't. It is what it is.
I relate so much. It's like your Sybil's hotter sister.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what makes people feel safe. So what are you lastly, like obviously EBM is world domination, and what are you excited to do and what do you love about this crazy dysfunctional world that we're in with
It's so
media
fun.
and all of it?
As simple as it is, like I was talking to one of my girls yesterday and we were like staying late at the office working on something. We were literally working on like a last minute, we are going to fly out a reporter to profile one of our clients. And it was just, I'm just like, this is so fun. Like we're not sitting around like talking about like STEM, you know what I mean? Like it's not boring. We're not trying to file collections and bank statements and just like, I don't know, maybe that's fun for someone else. This is so fun. Like I recognize that it's not solving cancer in that same vein. Like I always tell my girls it's PR, not the ER. Like the sad thing is that I think if our industry went away, like the world would still move on. It would be a lot less fun and interesting, but the wheels would turn. It would still go on. But let's enjoy it while it lasts. It's so fun. It's so exciting. I'm always working on things that I never thought I would. No day is the same. We have the opportunity to create moments from scratch. It's always so cool to see something on television or sees me in a magazine and be like, I did that. That's because of me. And that's because of a brainstorm that started in, with a bunch of girls around a whiteboard in sweatsuits, kind of trying to figure shit out. And all of a sudden it's on, GMA. Like that's the cool part. And I think that that's why the media is so powerful and why the whole, chain of command is so interesting. But I'm excited about it. I mean, I think that's why I went into the London markets because I recognized that they just weren't doing the same things that we were doing. They weren't optimizing it as well as we could. I think that Americans love to work and British people and people in Europe and other countries who are more sane than we are love to live. And so we take, you know, our approach to things and bring it to that market, and it can completely just flip it on its head. And so I think that there's just a lot of opportunity, even with the Korean market, which is insane. Like there are people in that market that have 70 million on Instagram, same with India, that we've never heard of, that are bigger than Beyonce plus Taylor Swift plus Alex Earl having a child. Like it is crazy. And so a lot of my brands are interested in like, you know, getting more into those areas and learning about what's out there, except for the US of A.
I love that. I love well, it's all like culture and impact. And so I love what you said about like being like drawing up the whiteboard and then bringing it to life. And, you know, there's a little, you know, a heartbeat, warm, glowy heartbeat in these two blondes and what they do, because I love what you said too about at the end of the day, like not taking yourself too seriously. Like those are words that I, you know, needed to hear. And I'm sure people listening too, because we can get so in like the hamster wheel and the grind of like what we do. And so I love that.
I mean, we've had so many sleepless nights, Tay, like over the years, kind of like stressed about things that it's just comical. If we think about it now, like what we were stressed about. I mean, like there's so many things that come to mind of like, you know, things that we thought were actually as awful as the Wuhan bat that were actually okay in the end.
And we thought we were going to get fired from Us Weekly so many times.
So many
Like,
times.
never
Remember when I
forget.
pissed off Kristen Bell at the what was that, the Golden Globes? Like so many times.
We'll have to leave it for part 2, everybody. The Two Blondes revival. You all are welcome for gracing your feeds, your ears, your playlists, your Spotify.
All that jazz.
Love you, Em. So proud of you. This was so much fun. The Two Blondes strike again.
Right
They
again.
never really went anywhere. It's actually like so much has changed, but nothing has changed. And here
Nothing has changed. And for everyone watching this, sorry you have to watch my brassy blonde hair. You can blame the water in here. That only Gavin Newsom benefits from in California. So cheers.
No, we'll take it up with Gav later. Love you, Em. Thank you.
It was so fun.
So much fun. I'm gonna stop recording. Everybody, your FOMO can begin right now.
The FOMO can begin
Now.